Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Hello everyone and welcome to our second PC build, which this one you definitely don't want to miss out on watching. We are featuring a Gigabyte G1 Guerrilla motherboard, an i7 970 which has 12 threads, 24GB of dual RAM, a Western Digital 1.5TB hard drive, a PMY 240GB SSD. We've also got an area cooled 700W power supply powering the system, a GTX 780 graphics card and a Corsair H100i AIO. For this build, we're going to be using the Corsair 275R ATX case. It is a great PC case for those who do want to go ham with RGB, and it's a sort of case that doesn't have to be on the table and on show. For £25 on Facebook Marketplace brand new, we had to get it. The case features a brushed metal look on the front, with the top of the case having two USB 3.0 ports. On the back of the case we have 7 PCI slots and a space for a riser and a 120mm fan pre-installed. The case supports up to ATX and also has sound dampening insulation on the side panels. On the right side of the case we have space for two 2.5-inch bays and two 3.5-inch bays and a space for an ATX power supply. For the operating system to go on, we opted for the 240GB PMY CS900 SSD at our computer store for £27. I have personally used this in laptops and desktops when selling them, and they are a perfect SSD for the price. For storage, we're going to be using the Western Digital 1.5TB green drive, which we got for free by pulling it out of a recording box, which I have made a video about, which should be linked in the top right of this video and in the description. For free, I don't really think there is nothing to complain about this drive. We're going to start by putting the hard drive in the caddy ready to go into the desktop, which is screwless and easy to do. Next we're going to prepare putting the SSD in one of the 2.5-inch drives. This will however require 4 screws to hold it into place. Now for £50 also on Facebook Marketplace we managed to pick up a half-built machine that was cased in a Corsair Obsidian 800D, but the case did see better days, and for this video I believe that the 275R was the right choice. We've also got killer E2100 Ethernet, which should be ideal for gaming with minimal lag, and surprisingly for the age of the motherboard we've also got a USB 3.0 header to allow functionality for the USB ports on the front of the case. We're going to start by putting the RAM into the motherboard, which composes of 6 sticks, each of them being 4GB DDR3 at 1600MHz. So the Gigabyte G1 Guerrilla is a socket 1366 X58 motherboard that looks pretty mean, with the heatsink resembling a magazine cartridge with a billet that looks pretty cool. We have got a black and green look around the motherboard, and I wouldn't say it looks too over the top. Next we're going to put the I/O shield in the desktop case and then the motherboard. The case also has great cable management for the CPU power connector and cables to be pulled through, with the motherboard being in the case still. Now whilst I screw in this motherboard, I think it's a perfect time to explain why I think this is a great idea to build your first PC or any PC. Doing this of course will save you money, but personally I think it's more fun to restore something into its glory. The hard drive for example would have been crushed into waste and rendered useless. However, what we have done is upcycled the recording box, used the hard drive for a different purpose and recycled the leftovers of the digibox. If the hard drive still works, why can't it still be used again? So here's a look at so far what the motherboard looks like inside the case, and I must admit the end result is going to look great. For powering this machine, we're going to be using an Aerocool Silent 700 watt power supply on Amazon Marketplace for £40. It is surprisingly a good quality power supply for the price, and I cannot fault with it. It has 52 amps on the 12 volt rail, which is going to be plenty for this build, and it also has got a bit of a girthy weight to it, which is at least a good sign. It is not a modular power supply, but it does compensate by having flat cables. It is also 80 plus rated, delivering up to 85% efficiency. So let's get the power supply into the case and start screwing it in. So now we're going to start preparing the all-in-one cooler, so we need to remove the front panel alongside the dust filter included and remove the 120mm front case fan. The Corsair H100i is a 240mm water cooler, which is a closed loop system. When we disassembled the old PC to do this video, the dust on the radiator was, being realistic, 1cm thick of dust, which was crazy. I had to spend an hour just cleaning it, let alone the fans. So to cool the CPU, we're going to be using new thermal paste, which we had some laying around, so we're going to be using the Antec thermal paste. So for the radiator fans, we're going to be installing two, pulling in the air, and will be pushed out of the back of the case. I've already installed the 24-pin motherboard power connector, but I'll just quickly show you how easy it is to thread the CPU connector in this case. Next, we'll be installing the SATA connectors for the SSD and the hard drive. Next, we're going to be doing the nightmare stage of connecting all the cables for the front panel to the headers of the motherboard. Now for the graphics card, we have a Zotac GTX 780 overclock with 3GB of GDDR5 and 3 fans to keep it cool. It requires one 6-pin and one 8-pin power connector to run this, but this power supply that we're using today in this build has all of that, so we're all good to go. Lastly, I'm going to be cable tying the PC now, which really ain't recommended to do so unless you switch on the PC to rule out a process of elimination in case something's not working properly. But I had high hopes, so I knew this PC was too dank not to power on for me. And here it is, switched on in all of its glory. It had no problems installing Windows, but I think the most difficult part was finding the driver for the killer E2100 Ethernet, as Windows did not have a default driver to work it, so I had to resort to going on another PC and installing the driver on a USB stick and putting it into this PC. Starting with the benchmarks, we loaded Cinebench R20, which scored 1504 for a 10-year-old CPU, and that's crazy. Just to show you where it comes on the Cinebench score sheet, it outperforms an i5 6500, a Ryzen 3 2200G, and an i3 8100. And that's where it ends. So we loaded GTA 5 with a mixture of ultra and high settings and got around 80 frames per second before I got killed by a dog. It ran smoothly with no hiccups and was an enjoyable experience. Next, I loaded up Call of Duty Warzone, which I did spend a little time messing around with the settings. However, I think there was a problem with the VRAM limitation only being 3GB. However, it was playable, getting around 45 FPS. I must admit I had to cut down with this video, otherwise I'll be doing the Olympics in this clip. We then ran Doom, which all settings were cranked up to Ultra on OpenGL, which made the game run at 70 FPS roughly, and that's surprising. Hitman ran with a mixture of ultra and medium settings, getting around 55 FPS, and was playable. Lastly, I ran Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which ran on all high settings, averaging around 130 FPS. And that concludes today's video of the ultimate £140 budget PC build. It just shows you what you can do with £140. If you look for new and used parts and combine them together, you can build a pretty decent machine from what you've seen on this video today. And the whole video was actually rendered on Davinci Resolve and made on this machine that we've just shown you guys today, and it ran it fine. As long as you look on the internet for different options and see what is out there and try and combine the best price for your buck, you will get a decent machine. As I said, if it's for games, Photoshop, video editing, you don't have to splash out on a lot of money. And this machine will be far more than capable of upgrading in the future regarding the graphics card or the storage. But there's lots of other options out there, and it just shows what you can do with computer waste. And a hard drive, for example, which we've featured in this video today, we've covered a video about video recording boxes that they have hard drives in them and people throw them out. And instead of throwing them out, you can take them apart and use the hard drive, for example, if it's for an external hard drive or in a PC build as we featured today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, comment and subscribe to us to support us. And we are planning to produce some more videos soon, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one.